With Mitchell Robinson injured to start the year, the New York Knicks are looking for the fifth and final starter as we break down the two most popular answers to this question, and we are going to be talking about all of it. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Knicks Basketball 365. If you're a New York Knicks fan, hit that subscribe button, but let's get into the news for today. Coming from Bleacher Report, New York Knicks head coach Mike Brown presided over Malik Monk's career best work in Sacramento, which suggests that he knows how to get maximum value from six men. At worst, he'll ensure Miles McBride is positioned to produce off the bench. McBride deserves a look in New York's backcourt beside Jalen Brunson for several reasons. First, it would allow the Knicks to exercise stricter control over Mitchell Robinson's minutes if he comes off the bench, an obvious concern with the board-hoarding big man already load managing to start the year. Also, Josh Hart's non-threatening shooting, which is going to be made worse by a finger injury, will give opponents someone to ignore in the starting five. So they're saying that we need more shooting in the starting lineup while Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson both recover from the injuries that they've sustained to start off the year. Josh Hart dealing with that lower back spasming, and Mitchell Robinson, who always seems to be hurt, is already load managing to start the season. We need both of those guys healthy if we're going to make a stretch run down at the end of the season. Got to remember, this is not the New York Knicks team of the past. Tom Thibodeau isn't here to run our starters all the way into the ground. We ran an 11-man rotation game one, 10-man game two. Multiple guys are going to be seeing the basketball, so the starting five may matter less than it has in the past for the New York Knicks, but they still have to figure out who that next guy up is, because if Mitchell Robinson is going to get hurt, they need to find an answer with that final spot in the starting lineup. Game one, Ariel Hukporti, the second-year center, who we drafted 55th overall with the final pick of the 2024 NBA draft. I thought he performed pretty well in that first game. Coach clearly did not agree with me. Ariel Hukporti never saw the hardwood in game two. But Bleacher Report is now urging the New York Knicks to throw in Miles Deuce McBride into the starting lineup, and I think it makes a lot of sense. If we go over what Miles McBride has done so far this season, not a great shooting night versus the Boston Celtics, only 3 for 11, 2 for 9 from long range, shooting 38% on the season so far, but we know this guy's a good shooter. He's going to be able to bounce back off of that game two versus Boston. And currently, his field goal percentage being as low as it is kind of a byproduct of having one bad game. We have a very small sample size, so we kind of know who Deuce McBride already is, and why he would be a great fit for the starting lineup is it gives another shooter next to Jalen Brunson. Brunson would, of course, be running the one at the point guard, where Deuce McBride would then be available to be an active receiver for assists from Jalen Brunson. He would be hitting shots, stretching out the defense, and more importantly, playing great defense for the New York Knicks on the other side. Jalen Brunson is a guard who has to be hidden, unfortunately, when we are on defense. He fights hard, and he takes a whole lot of, he draws good offensive fouls from the other team is the words I'm trying to look for, which is awesome to see, but he's still a pretty low efficiency defender. So we need to have more guards and overall a more defensive-minded team that can help out Jalen Brunson while our star, because we were going to obviously play Jalen Brunson. He's going to run up a ton of points on offense, but we got to figure out some answers to help him out defensively, and Deuce McBride would be a fantastic piece to slide in right next to Jalen Brunson. Also, fan favorite, we got to chant for him every single time he puts up a three-pointer. You cannot go wrong with more Deuce chants in the Garden. Let's get it. But the other name that is being floated around to potentially start is Jordan Clarkson, who was signed early on into the free agency period by the New York Knicks. Jordan Clarkson has made a name for himself as pretty much a perennial Sixth Man of the Year candidate. He is someone who scores a ton of points off the bench. Any game, he could go off for absolutely 25 or even more. He can go crazy off the bench, and he's a pretty much pure scorer for the New York Knicks, especially what we needed last season. If we watched Jalen Brunson go out of the game, which he's only human, he's got to rest sometime. I know Tom Thibodeau wishes he could play him all 48 minutes, but Jalen Brunson couldn't do that. When Jalen Brunson was off the floor, the offense was an absolute mess and kind of focused on and got bailed out by offensive rebounds and then a helter-skelter approach, kind of, just feed the hot hand. Whatever happens, happens. Tom Thibodeau's lack of creativity and lack of effectiveness when drawing up and calling offensive plays really hurt the bench unit last year. So that's why Jordan Clarkson was picked up, to make sure we had an option to operate the entire offense while Brunson was off the floor, to give a really scary scoring option to the New York Knicks when Jalen Brunson was off the floor. Now, so far, Clarkson has not been able to be an extremely effective scorer, but that will change. We know who Jordan Clarkson is. He's had a long career in the NBA, and he's, for the last 5 years, been pretty much the same guy, coming off the bench, putting up a ton of points, and he's someone that we can be very, very confident in projecting he's going to continue to play that role for the New York Knicks. But I would push back against starting Jordan Clarkson, and I think the significantly better role for him is leaving him on the bench, because we need someone to run that bench unit. And that's why I think he has a skill set that is very similar to Jalen Brunson. If he wants to be the number one scorer, I'm not saying because he's selfish, I'm just saying the way to get the most out of him is by assigning him the role of number one scorer. There are some players that it's not selfishness, they just play better when the basketball's in their hands, and that's Jalen Brunson and Jordan Clarkson. So there's only one basketball, and the basketball that the New York Knicks play, only one ball. You can't have both of those guys with the basketball in their hands at the same time. That's why I would greatly argue that Deuce McBride is the significantly better option next to Jalen Brunson, because we have to keep in mind everything with that starting five has to be built around Jalen Brunson, our MVP candidate, one of the best players in basketball. So that is how that would work. Deuce McBride slides into the 2, and then Karl-Anthony Towns, that would make him the 5 currently while Mitch Robinson gets healthy. That's going to hurt our rim protection. I understand that. Karl-Anthony Towns, not the best rim protector, but I do feel like he's given more effort defensively this year, which I love to see. When it comes to Karl-Anthony Towns, you can't tell a bad defender to be good at defense, but he can control his effort level. And in the past, it has not been high enough. This year so far, I've seen effort from Karl-Anthony Towns defensively, and I really like what I'm seeing so far. He's got to stay out of foul trouble, but there is a path for this new New York Knicks regime, led by Mike Brown, to get the most out of Karl-Anthony Towns as a defender. He's been a paint beast his whole career, but the league has been waiting for him to arrive as at least a somewhat serviceable defender. I'm not saying he's going to be a great defender, because that's just not in the cards for a player like Karl-Anthony Towns. It's just after 10 years in the league, or going into his 10th year, he just is what he is at this point. The final option would be Guerschon Yabusele. If you want to slot him in at the 5, behind Cat at the 4, Yabusele at the 5. Yabusele, over the course of his career, has averaged 11.2 points in games that he has started. A lot of those games were on pretty bad 76er teams, but if you want to run Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG, Cat, and Yabusele, Yabusele definitely plays more physical defense than Karl-Anthony Towns does, but I still don't think that solves the rim protection problem. And if you are going to be running a team like that, you're going to be hurting defensively. Whereas if you bring in Miles McBride at the 2, then bust down Mikal Bridges to the 3, OG to the 4, Cat at the 5, you are not great in the paint defensively, but at least you're going to be scoring more points on offense to make up for it. Guerschon Yabusele, 0 points in game 1 versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, but he's only really a spot-up shooter. Isn't not going to add a whole lot of offense, but we know this team is going to keep fighting for those offensive rebounds. This team defensively, I mean, I wish I could say that we can game plan around not having an elite rim protector while Mitchell Robinson is out, but that's going to be a really tough call. Right now, they're fighting really hard against the Cavaliers and Boston Celtics. The Knicks defense forced a ton of turnovers, and I'm hoping that trend continues. This team's just got to keep creating havoc, keep forcing turnovers, and then keep scoring in transition. It's awesome to watch. Can't wait to watch the Knicks tomorrow at 6 versus the Miami Heat. But if you stuck around this long in the video, thank you for watching. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And go Knicks.